the natural urge of the body is to come back into balance. The natural urge of the mind is to come back into balance. But because some of us are so frightened of being in space, that we keep ourselves so busy. And I was one of those people.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellers.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Happy New Year to you. Oh, 2026. It's early in January, but we don't care. We're still alive and loving it. Rosie, it's season 3. Did you ever think
Woohoo!
we'd get this far? Happy New Year, sweetheart. I hope you had a wonderful break.
Well, thank you. And how incredibly appropriate that we're talking about my space, you having just moved into your new place.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Not a moment too soon, because after a 2-year journey, I needed some space.
Well, we are going to invite you to be in the 3rd episode, the client space, talking about that, because you have been saying I'm living each of the principles as we're going along. So you're going to be after the beautiful Gina Lazenby for our expert episode. You're going to be our guest so that we can go deep dive into what this whole journey has been about for you, leaving your old space, being in limbo, traveling, and finding your new space. But this is the more we think about it, the more this principle is a big one, actually.
Huge.
This question of how our space does impact us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking this today.
Yeah, me too, Rosie. And I wonder how many of our listeners have even made that connection between what's around them, their house, their personal space, whether they have it or they don't have it. Have they made the connection between that and their health? Because I know I certainly hadn't until I started this journey and lived in places that I loved and lived in places that I didn't love, and noticed how, my health was affected. So, I mean, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the spirit of a place? Let's start there. Let's go big first, shall we?
Well, I'm going to make a true confession, which is the first 3 houses I bought in my life, I didn't even take a compass along with me. So I wasn't even aware where the sun rose and sank. And one of my girlfriends bought a house outside Stroud in a valley where the sun didn't even come over the hill for the whole of the winter.
Oh
She of
no.
course bought it in the summer and didn't realize that. But there are so many things that affect the spirit of place, the land energy, the nature, what's gone on in that space. Has it been a place where there's been unhappiness,
Mhm.
or even misery, or even, heaven forfend, torture or unpleasant things that have happened, to, what's going on in it now. And boy, do we all feel it. When you walk into somebody's place that's a home, which is full of love,
Mhm.
you just, it's like a warm, sunny day, isn't it? You just feel
Mhm.
that beautiful feeling of home, of
Yeah.
safety and comfort and well-being. That is that feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I think you get that from people as well. You can come into somebody's own space that they're in, and you just feel like you are home, and you feel comfortable, and you don't feel awkward. And usually there's beauty around. Maybe there's art. It's warm. There's usually food. For me, if there's food, I'm comfortable.
Well, the other end of the spectrum is what I call soul-free zones. You go into
Mm.
some very modern architecture places, or supermarket complexes, or office blocks, and you just feel, there's no there's no, that whatever that thing is that makes a place feel alive.
I know where I've noticed this. Is in treatment rooms. I have a lot of body massage and acupuncture and the whole range of treatments. And some places I can go into and immediately feel at home. And some can be quite cold and clinical. And I think that makes a difference to actually how you receive the healing.
Absolutely. But I think there are a lot of layers of this question of the impact of our space. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot is how little personal space many of my clients have. I remember that book, The Virginia Woolf, a room of my own, and how few of us these days have a space where we can go in, shut the door, and just be in our own energy, so that we are, that we're able to feel our feelings, hear our thoughts, and set the vibe, set the tone, set the feel of the room. And I think this kind of goes along with what we've talked about with this, being other focused. Because in our own space, we can be very dominated, can't we, by other people and noise. And if we don't, particularly as women, stand up for the idea of having a place we can be where we can connect with ourselves, there is that risk that we disappear.
Absolutely. I mean, I've really begun to notice that as I've got older, that I need time because I pick up other people's energy and absorb so much, and I'm constantly looking and making sure everybody's okay. I get lost in that space. So,
Yeah.
really, as I've got older, if somebody's asked me a question, or they're asking me what I want or what I like, I need, I will just pause and take myself away just to get a bit of that personal space to check in and say, what is it that I really need? What do I want when
Yeah.
all the noise has quietened down?
And I think people that are more introvert need it more, and probably are slightly better at getting that space for themselves. I think those of us who are naturally extrovert, like you and me, will, and rather outer focused and scanning and scoping for what's going on around us. We're probably less good at just taking personal space.
I'm really inspired by my daughter who has learnt to really check in with herself and communicate to us. I need to go and have some downtime. That's what she calls it. I need to go and have some downtime in my room. When she was little, I would assume as her parent that there was something wrong. Now I know she's looking after herself. She's taking good care of herself because she's giving herself that personal space. It needs to be encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's probably top of my list of thinking, can we somehow make some personal space? If it's a time, or even better still, a room where we can go and connect with ourselves. But there's also nowadays this whole thing of more and more of us working from home, and what that does to the space. And I think I'm somewhat guilty of my work dominating my family and my home space. I think it did that anyway. I think it did that before I moved my work into the home space. But that's now a big thing, isn't it? Because our families are hearing those conversations, and the message that they are getting is that all those calls and people are more important than
Of
them.
course. Yeah.
Mm, so they're getting to sort of hear and experience the professional us rather than the mummy or the partner, the lover. It's impacting or creating a different impact.
Well, that's great awareness, Rosie, that you've got about that. And obviously, we need to be aware about it first, otherwise, we can't change it.
I've just remembered something funny, which was when my younger daughter was 2 years old, because I do like to talk, as you might have noticed. She actually managed to crawl underneath my desk, find the wire that unplugged the telephone, and pull it out.
More of us
That's
should
when
do
I
that.
knew she was very bright.
More of us should do that, Rosie, to get our needs met, definitely. With great awareness will come great change, and that's where we need to start. And I'm really convinced that I think there's many of us, like me, up until a couple of years ago, that don't realise the impact of our space on our health. What sort of things have you seen that come through your clinic?
Well, I've become very interested in the question of how much light do we get. I think we are we're light sensitive creatures. Of course we know we are, because we all have circadian rhythms. So all of the inner biology is set actually by the sun and the light and the daylight. And that dictates a great deal more of what goes on in our body chemistry. And so getting into the light, I mean, especially if we have a space that hasn't got much light, people know that they make vitamin D through sunshine, but we make a great deal more than that. Our the working of our pineal gland and the melatonin, and how that impacts the rest of the master hormones in our pituitary gland. This is all working with the rhythms of the sun and the moon and the nature of light around us. So I think a lot of us are light starved, and also oxygen starved. So particularly in this day and age of very hermetically sealed, super well insulated houses, how much oxygen are we actually getting in, or how much are we rebreathing the carbon dioxide that we're breathing out? And when you look at that synergy of the fact that the trees and the plants make oxygen and they breathe in carbon dioxide, we need the oxygen they create, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So it's completely symbiotic. But if we live in a space which is cut off from nature and cut off from light and oxygen, then our whole life energy is going to drop.
Interesting situation I've got up here in the Scottish Highlands, because there's tons of oxygen. The air quality is amazing. Trees as far as you can see, but light in winter, that is a challenge. When the sun does come up, it's gorgeous from at 10 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. But after then, it's dark. And I can really, really feel it. It's a long night up here, a long night.
So you have to get out and about in that, I'm sure you do, in that time of day to maximize the precious light that you've
Yeah.
got. But the time it really dawned on me, I went on a retreat down in France, which was with Ram Dass for 10 days, and it was billed as being in a French chateau. And I thought, that's going to be very gorgeous. Well, we got there and it was slightly worse than my old boarding school. It had lino floors and metal beds and horsehair mattresses that looked like they were full of bed bugs. And I just thought, this is no good at all. So I thought, surely on this estate there has to be somewhere better. And I found a haystack, and it was full of hay. And I took all my blankets and made a nest in the top of the haystack that had an A-frame, and it was looking down this valley. And the way you kind of come to through the night, and every time I came to, there was a more beautiful vista that I was looking at, of mists coming up and starlight and the dawn rising, and seeing. And what it made me realize is that the buildings that we've created cut us off from this light show that's going on all day, every day. Now, I know this may sound a bit whimsical, but actually, these are the resources we are born with, and the world we're born into, and we're cutting off a lot of it by dwelling in the kinds of way we are.
Well, I think it's why we moved to Scotland. I mean, in my new house, the view from the bedroom windows, it's just incredible. It takes my breath away. The sky, particularly, is vast. And because there's no buildings around to block it, it just looks huge. And it brightens my day every morning. And we get fabulous sunsets and fabulous sunrises from where we are. So I think it probably is the reason we moved up here, Rosie.
Yeah, the wide open space and the big sky. And so I would say, for anybody who's at the opposite end of the spectrum in a city, or building with less, just make sure you get out to the beach, to the moors, to the wild places where you can feel that sense of space. Because it also, I don't know about you, but I just find it brings everything into proportion when you feel so tiny by comparison with the sea or the mountain or the forest. It takes some of that sort of over self-consciousness away, if there's such a word. But I think you know what I mean. It changes your perspective.
It does, definitely.
Yeah. But the other thing about our space is that the amount of stuff that we have and the amount of clutter, and it just feels that, especially, well, maybe it's not just the young, but this compulsive shopping, and this, stuffing our cupboards and drawers full with more and more things, which are often almost identical. What's that all about, Karen?
Well, I think there's emotional attachment that people have to things. It's a way of distracting ourselves from actually feeling. It's a coping mechanism to get something else, or to put your emotion or your attachment onto a thing, rather than have an open heart and allow yourself to feel whatever grief, joy, sadness. We do it with these things, don't we? These trinkets and things we've saved from ancestors. And I mean, one of my favourite shows at the moment, I've mentioned it to you before, is Stacey Solomon's Sort It Out, where she goes into people's homes where rooms are just absolutely crammed full of stuff, and they lay it all out in a warehouse. And then people have a release, an emotional release, letting go to a toothbrush. I mean, some of the strangest things that we can attach ourselves to. And then, of course, when you've got so much stuff, you can't find it. So then you buy another one, and it self-perpetuates, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that show once, and that was the biggest shocker, was, that people would have 10 of a particular knife, or 6 of a given pair of shoes. And, that this it feels very compulsive. It feels very akin to compulsive eating.
Yeah.
where you're just trying to fill a hole, whether that's it's a soul emptiness or craving for whether it be love or attention or purpose or belonging.
Yeah.
That we're trying to fill ourselves and our homes with stuff. But also we have to look at how incredibly powerful the media is to hypnotize us into wanting this stuff, and the way social media and all the cookies and everything is geared up to. And even the other day, my partner Mike was talking about wanting a new pair of jeans for his birthday, and within 60 seconds an ad for a pair of jeans popped up on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
So we now know that our phones are listening to us. And they've got us by the short and curlies because there it was.
Well, it's a prime example of something disrupting our space, particularly if you have your notifications on, Rosie. If the apps, social media, Instagram, Facebook, if you haven't looked at it in a certain amount of time, it will send you a notification, make you think, oh, somebody's trying to get in touch with me. So then you're disrupted from your thoughts, from your creativity, from your peace, because you're going to your phone, and all the time it's trying to get you to buy something. That's what it does. So, if we're creating our space, the phone has to be away from us. And there is really an upturn now in younger people moving away from smartphones and going back to what a real phone was. My son's just bought one. It's Caterpillar, the brand Caterpillar, the diggers. It's like a workman's phone. It's quite hefty and it's flip, but you can get WhatsApp on it and make phone calls, and that is it. And he loves it. It's changed his life. All those hours you've got back.
Well, yes, I have to confess to having become a bit of a scroller, as you might have noticed by all the random Instagrams I'm sending you.
Yes. They are funny though, so we'll let you off.
Well, that's the thing I like is the humour, but you are opening up a whole other dimension here of my space, because obviously there's my mental space and the quality of my consciousness and my peace of mind. So can I ever actually have that level of space? And can I create space in my day or my time or my diary? I'm quite guilty of filling up every part of my diary and hardly ever leaving open space. Do you manage to leave open space in your diary?
I've had to, Rosie. I've had to manage anxiety, because the busier I got, the more anxious I got, because I wasn't getting time to reset my nervous system. And to reset my nervous system, I need safety, I need space, and I need peace. And so it became part of my daily routine. I meditate first thing in the morning when I wake up. I do yin yoga before I go to bed. And I really thank my body for it, because without the pain and the inflammation that I've been through recently with the stress of all the moving, I wouldn't have realized that that's what I needed. So it's as important to me as eating a meal now. And I'm not perfect. I don't do it every day, but if my anxiety and my stress levels start going up, I think, what haven't I been doing? I've cut out the qigong, I've cut out the yin yoga. It's always the first one to go, but it's the first one that I bring back.
Yeah.
When we've been scheduling our work life on the podcast, I get quite sort of boundaried now around, no, that is holiday time and we're having a break. And it's really important to me, yeah.
I think so. And I can remember when my kids were small, I had the kind of parents where every bit of the day was structured, with activities and with this idea that you had to be stimulated at all times. And so when my kids were little, I used to say to them, this is your time. This is your time. And they didn't say, oh, but, can't we go off and learn the violin or play cricket? They just really happily played or found their space or did some crayoning, or they were able to relate to that idea of this is my time.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
It feels really special, really sacred time, Rosie, doesn't it? That time for one.
Yeah. And you've just exactly tuned into what I was about to say, which is about sacred space in the home. And I suppose this has come about because so many of my clients that I see are so other focused, so devoted to the care of partners, kids, elders, not having the physical space, but also that place to connect with their higher self.
Mm.
And one of my very remarkable clients, a lady called Gillian Gill, who recovered from stage 4 endometrial cancer. It took her some time, but I met her in 2020 and it's now 2026. So, this is phenomenal what she's done. And one of the things she created was a space in the corner of one of her rooms that she called her love chair. And she made a little altar, nothing big, but where she'd have a picture of her teacher, a flower, a candle, a little stone, a precious stone, and she would go and sit in her love chair for 20 minutes twice a day. And she would have a ritual in that sacred space of a process that she went through where she would just completely empty out down through her feet into the ground all the stress, all the tiredness, all the exhaustion, and see herself washed through with white light. And then once she felt clean and clear as a vessel, she said she would open the top of her head to become into direct communion with source, with spirit, with her angels, and she would make her prayer that for complete healing of body, mind, and spirit. And bit by bit by bit, she achieved a complete healing because she took the space and, well, she made the physical space, but that helped her to create this ritual and connecting practice for herself, which was profoundly self-healing.
Oh, I feel peaceful just listening to it.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Mm.
And I went to see her recently, and she's still there, 20, all these years later, there it is. And that is a very sacred part of her day. But I love that.
What a wonderful way to live. And I think we've spent a lot of time looking to the external to give us that peace. And actually, if we can create that space, my space, it's within all along, isn't it?
Well, yes. And I have a lovely friend, Richard Farmer, who's been a Tai Chi teacher and a healer. And he says, even if it's 5 minutes, that, it's not about how long you meditate and create that space. It can be 5 minutes just to allow everything to still and just come into connection with your heart and the source. And I know there's a group called the Brahma Kumaris, and they have a beautiful hospital in India that's all run by volunteers. And every hour a bell rings, just so that for 1 minute per hour, they connect into the space. So they come out of their everyday consciousness and just connect into source or infinite love in that way.
Wonderful.
So it doesn't have to be, that we have to sit on the mat for all that time if we don't have the time.
And what is that doing to our physical body, Rosie? Because you're so good at joining these dots for us.
Okay. Well, I think that there are many levels on which you can explain it, but when the mind is busy, the whole time thinking, feeling, what am I doing? Where am I? What's next? You're using up a lot of neurotransmitter and molecules of emotion. So when you stop, you allow your whole brain and body to reboot. And have you ever noticed the way when you meditate and you open your eyes again, how bright the colors look.
Yeah.
So you literally make some more brain food. And similarly with the adrenaline, and we can get tight and tense and what have you when we're overly busy. If we can let go of the physical body as well and just allow things to reset and rebalance, the natural urge of the body is to come back into balance. The natural urge of the mind is to come back into balance. But because some of us are so frightened of being in space that we keep ourselves so busy. And I was one of those people. And I'll tell you how I got cured. On this retreat with Ram Dass, where I was living in the haystack,
Yeah.
on about day 3, so we got 10 days with Ram Dass, and on about day 3, he says, "Okay, guys, so would you like the 1-day silence or the 2-day silence?" And I said, "What?" I'm thinking to myself, I haven't ever been silent for 10 minutes, let alone a day, let alone 2 days. So I'm kind of going, 1 day, please. And all the Keenies are going, "Oh, 2 days around us. Let's have 2 days of silence." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I might be running away. Anyhow.
I had one guest on a retreat, Rosie, that I was running in Spain. And she landed at the airport with the rest of the group, and they travelled to the venue, which took about an hour and a half. She got to the venue, she unpacked. It took her literally 15 minutes to unpack. And then she came up to me and said, "Right, what are we doing?" I said, "You've got 4 hours to yourself." Literally, she took her phone out of her pocket and started to try and book a flight home. "I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't." She thought she had a panic attack because she got 4 hours to herself and didn't know how to spend that
How to
time.
handle it. Well, what Ram Dass said, he said, "Okay, I want you all going into this silence to think of 3 questions that you need answering. And just place those in your mind, and then we're going to go into silence." And he said at the end of the 2 days you can either have come and put those questions to me, or you can come and meditate with me, or you can cathart. If there's a lot of emotion there, I will be witness to your emotional release. But what happened was that I found with this enforced quietness that as I went down into quieter and quieter and quieter space, that all the answers to the questions I already knew. So one by one, it was, "Oh, of course, oh, of course, oh, of course." And then I just hit this kind of really blissful feeling, which, they all say, the kingdom of heaven is within, and that you just got to be still enough to feel the love of the universal spirit. And I just started to feel happier and happier and happier, and it cured me of my fear of being alone and of my fear of taking space. But I expect this is resonating with people listening, that a lot of us have never had that chance to be in space or with ourselves, and are so frightened of the feelings that are going to come up.
I mean, it's a very brave step, and it does start with personal boundaries and the space, the physical space that you are around. So what we've just been talking about is creating this space within ourselves to find the answers to those questions which are within. But if your physical space is full of clutter and it's full of dominant energies, maybe other people or noise, or lots of computers, electromagnetic, and things that are disrupting that space, it takes a lot of energy to put that boundary in. So you're working with the outside as well as the inside to create the container to get that personal space.
Yeah, and I think that why it worked on the retreat was that there were a group of us, and I felt safe.
Yeah.
So we're back again to that idea that groups, even though we weren't speaking with one another, we could see each other and feel each other's presence and feel the love and support of Ramdas. So once again, I think this is something that it does need holding. It does need a container, which is why going to yoga classes or qigong classes or tai chi classes, places where you're held in the silence, so that you can begin to inhabit that space and grow that sense of safety to be in that space, which is your own consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, they teach you some amazing techniques as well, don't they? Always grounding techniques, usually through breath work, so that when you come into that space, you can then feel like you've really landed and you're on the ground and you're being held by the ground as well as the group around you. And particularly for people who find it difficult. I mean, how many times have you heard, oh, I can't meditate because I've got all these thoughts going round my head? So many times I've heard from clients, I say, have you tried meditation? No, I've tried it once and I've got all these thoughts going around my head. If you go into a group where everybody is doing that, your energy will level with their energy. It's so powerful. It's amplified, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly so. And this is quite deep territory, really. This question of whether we were enabled to feel safe enough as a small person to be in our own space.
Yeah.
But therein is the gold, isn't it, that all of us are reaching for. And I mean, circling back to our space, our physical space, I think that things like color and beauty, and even a vase of flowers or a plant, can bring a space alive, even down to the layout of furniture and, and as you say, the big declutter. I think there are so many things we can do to bring our space alive.
Yeah. I light a candle every morning, particularly when I come in the space where I'm going to be working. It's the first thing I do now is intentionally create that space and bring in beauty and bring in light and bring in love. I mean, before we start recording, every single time we're like, blessings to the recording, see you on the other side. We're doing this intentionally because that is then the spirit and the energy that travels with you. And it helps you be alive and loving it, doesn't it?
Well, indeed, and the name of this episode is The Spirit of Place, and I got that term from the beautiful architect George Ferguson, who's been the mayor of Bristol and made amazing change in Bristol. But he really tuned me into that idea that a place has a spirit, and 9 times out of 10, it depends how much love has been generated or how much thought. And of course, there's sacred geometry as well, the way that certain shapes create energy and make places feel beautiful.
Yeah.
I was in the Wells Cathedral the other day, and it has, for the altar, there's a massive, it's like an X, but a curvy X with the amazing altar in it. And it's just magnificent what that shape does. And we all look at Stonehenge and the way that with those defining stones that created a shape and a space. And when I was in Japan, one of the ideas they have is of using a window space to create a view or a vista, just as you've just described, so that often the placement of a window will be exactly placed so that the lake and the mountain are exactly in the middle of it. So these things that are so sensitively thought about, can make such a difference.
It's making me think of stained glass windows, actually, Rosie. And 18 months ago, we had the wonderful pleasure of living in a converted 14th century chapel in Cornwall. And it really made me, I mean, I could sense the calmness there, but I started to think about how much prayer had been done in that space. I mean, that was definitely the sacredness of the energy, was years and years and years of prayer. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we feel this, don't we? I've used the term before, neural Wi-Fi, which I heard first from Ruby Wax.
Mm.
This idea that we're picking up so much that's unseen, that we have an antennae, and we can feel that, can't we? Especially for me, St David's down in West Wales, the old cathedral there. That bit of land and that place just makes my heart sing. And that's been on the path of many pilgrims over many centuries. So we can feel the spirit of place.
And it's a great tool to have, that if you've ever traveled somewhere and you felt at peace and you'd felt calm, maybe you've got something like a little crystal or stone, or I remember Claire Hattersley actually on the nature episode talking to us about having a piece of her favourite tree. And that whenever you touch that, if you haven't got nature around you, you haven't got a beautiful space, but whenever you touch that, you can anchor back into that feeling.
Absolutely. And I think bringing plants inside and growing herbs, even on a window box, having that connection with nature in our homes, but even changing the colour of one wall. I have a girlfriend, Liz Ann Davis, who's a great visual artist. And one time I invited her around for dinner. And while I was finishing making the food, she said, "Could I just do a little something in your living room?" I said, "Yes." And she went in and she took a basket and she pulled out about 10 objects and left the 3 or 4 ones that she thought were really beautiful with space around them so that you could see them.
Oh,
So, and it
wonderful.
completely uplifted the whole space.
Well, I have a friend like that who's so, so good at it. My dear friend Shaz, who lives in Spain. And I went for a week recently to be taken care of by her. And one day I went back into my bedroom in the evening, and not only had she changed the sheets, so it was clean sheets night, but there was my pajamas were folded up, and there was a beautiful rose on top of my pajamas, and a glass of water, and just the detail and the care and the love that was in that room. I couldn't not but get better. It was just so, so special, so special.
Absolutely beautiful. So exactly as you say, it's the detail, isn't it? The tiny details and those little gestures of love and sweetness.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. So it isn't out of anybody's reach. The last thing we want to do is make everybody feel, like they need to move to Scotland tomorrow.
Well, you're very welcome. I'll post a picture of the vista on the Instagram page.
Gorgeous.
Oh,
But thank you, dear Karen. It's an important principle, and so looking forward to exploring this with our amazing guest Gina Lazenby
mhm.
next time, who's author of the Healthy House and the Feng Shui Handbook. So that's going to be fascinating. And then we'll go deep diving into your journey with your space.
Well, perfect timing for me, because it will give me time and space in January to process the 2 years that have gone on. So I'll start thinking about it now, Rosie.
Marvelous. Thank you, Karen.
See you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosie. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosie and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.